In these long, dark winter months, it's normal to find our sense of positivity and optimism waning a bit sometimes. And I'm no exception to that. I definitely have a greater share of less positive days during the winter months. But when that happens to me, I find myself worrying about it a bit because when I look back at my life ever since I was a child, I know that it's been my sense of optimism that has carried me through all of the challenges that life has thrown at me. And over the last few years, some of those challenges have felt a bit insurmountable at first, but with a sense of optimism, I've been able to overcome them and overcome them with a greater sense of thriving, with greater resilience, and with lots of learning under my belt. So it got me thinking, where does this sense of optimism come from? Because I'm so grateful for it. So I've been looking into research and evidence around optimism, why it is that some people are able to be much more optimistic than others. And I've been focusing on the work in particular of Martin Seligman, who's considered the godfather of positive psychology. What I found is really good news that although some elements of optimism are genetic and based on our context and environment, a huge amount of optimism can be built. We all have the ability, regardless of our background and our context and our current situation, we all have the ability to grow greater optimism. And this is brilliant news because optimism accounts for much better health and well-being. Optimistic people are much more likely to be able to thrive in their careers and in their personal lives. And for example, innovators, I do a lot of work with innovators, and most of the great innovators that I work with are tend to be very optimistic people. They see challenges as simply exciting solutions that they need to overcome, not as something that's going to floor them and stop them from achieving their greatest ambitions and goals. So here are four things that we can all do to help build a greater sense of optimism. The first is focus on the beauty of the everyday. There is beauty all around us, but sometimes we just need to look a bit harder. In the cold winter months, for example, the first snowdrops appearing through the tough frozen ground always makes me smile. A walk on a frosty day is beautiful in its crispness and the way that it makes me feel to be outside. Regardless of what it is that really floats your boat, look for the detail in life that's all around you. It will lift you. Don't look for the big, exciting, incredibly obvious positive things in life. Look for the detail that's all around us. Find the beauty in every day, and that will boost your sense of optimism. The second thing that we can do is to focus on the process, not the outcomes. If we've got a big goal that we're working towards and our happiness, our positivity is determined by whether or not we achieve that end goal, we're going to find ourselves very disappointed. So big goals take a long time to achieve, and quite often we might falter or change direction on our path to achieving them. If instead we focus our positivity on the small steps that we take in achieving those goals, we'll be happier every single day. We'll feel a greater sense of optimism. If our goal is to climb Mount Everest, for example, and we believe that we can only be happy once we've reached that summit, then the progress on the way up and the progress of booking the trip and planning flights and planning your routes can feel really arduous and quite negative. But if we focus on the beauty of the journey, then we'll have a much greater sense of optimism. And you don't have to climb Mount Everest to do that. Every goal, every project that you're working on, rather than focusing on the ultimate success and the ultimate completion of that project as being your source of success, focus on the joy that each step in the progress towards that ultimate success gives you. The third thing that you can do is to remind yourself that your failures don't define you. In the path to achieving brilliant things, we're all really likely to fail. The world's greatest innovators have almost all failed multiple times. So don't let yourself create a narrative where when something goes wrong or it doesn't go according to plan, you say to yourself, I am a failure. Instead say, it failed and that is par for the course. Look at what you can learn from that failure. Try to make sure that that failure doesn't occur again, and then move on a better person as a result of what went wrong. And finally, remind yourself of the impermanence of negative things. Nothing ever stays the same. Things always change, and we have the power to control whether that change is for the better or for the worse. There are a huge amount of things that are not beyond our control that we can do to make sure that even if today was crappy, tomorrow will be beautiful.